mass adoption won't happen from the top down. You need it to be like a bottom-up approach. And I think sometimes we just have to like step back and see like, okay, where do we want the bigger picture to be? And see how Bitcoin can actually help people. Bitcoin gives them freedom. That's one of the things that I've realized, and it's sort of like the mantra through all of this, like from whether Bitcoin circular economies in Peru or here in Mexico, having the ability to literally stack your own sats is a game changer. She ended up having cancer and she managed to save enough money to pay for her studies because saving in Bitcoin is way more productive than saving in fiat.
This podcast is entertainment, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Views expressed represent statements of the speaker in their individual capacity, do not represent the views of Unchained, and should not be considered investment advice. Speakers often have personal, family, or business connections to Unchained, which may include direct financial benefits. Please see our disclosure at unchained.com/podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Bitcoin Frontier podcast. I'm your host, Trey Sellers. We're here exploring the ideas, the people, and the breakthroughs that are driving Bitcoin adoption forward. And I'm here with a very special guest, Isabella Santos. She is in Isla Mujeres. She runs BTC Isla. She's with GetBased TV. We're going to learn all about it. Isabella, really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to apologize in advance for the noise, because the thing is, like, when you live on an island, things happen. So this morning, I was super excited to be on the podcast and everything, and they decided to cut off the power with literally no, like, they didn't tell us anything until like the minute of. So I'm in the middle of the streets, literally, so you'll hear a lot of the golf carts.
That's really interesting. So you're in Isla Mujeres. There's probably a lot of development and that kind of thing. You're dealing with internet outages and that kind of thing. Is that a regular thing? Or like, tell us about why you are there and what kind of projects you're working on and what's your background? Like, give us the whole story.
All right. So yeah, on the island, I didn't know this, but the power outages are crazy common. They happen minimum once a month on a good note. And it's because the infrastructure is so poorly done. That's one of the things I miss a lot about the States. I feel like they know how to plan things properly. Here they just do, which is, it has a good and bad things. And how did I end up here? Well, it started, I've been here for like around a year and 6 months. And what ended up happening was, my fiance has a restaurant and a hotel, and we were long distance for about 6-7 years. I lived in Miami. He lived in Mexico, and everything happened to be like, I started my company and everything online. So I was like, everything I do is online. I can just like move there and we can see if like things work. And I didn't want to move here without having nothing like physically here. So that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to orange fill the island. And fast forward a couple months later, like after I got the idea, I end up doing this documentary in Peru with Motive. Motive is an organization that they have like 17 different circular economies, and they teach these women how to do their businesses. They teach them how to speak English. They teach them how to write, like really, really cool things. And Bitcoin is literally just an arm, and they use it for them to like earn money and everything and sort of like escape their like very toxic relationships and households that they're in. So after watching that, I was like, that is what I want to bring to the island. Not just orange filling the island, but rather than like literally helping the people here and develop different things, whether it's like a business or learn English. So after I did that documentary, I was like, I'm ready. I moved 2 months later here on the island, and it's sort of been a slow grind. We've managed to have one graduating class. We're about to have the second graduating class this I don't know if this month or next month. It depends on the students' availability. from the Mi Primer Bitcoin diploma. We've had around 20 plus merchants accept Bitcoin from, like shops, from coffee shops to different food places and restaurants. We're going to open the first Bitcoin cafe, which is going to be like the first cafe that has everything priced in sats from all of Mexico. That's going to open in August 21st. So it's been really cool and interesting.
Wow. So you moved to Isla Mujeres down in Mexico and you started an organization, which is BTC Isla. Is that right?
Yes, BTC Isla.
And the mission statement there is to do what? It's to help educate the locals about Bitcoin, or it sounds like it goes beyond just that.
It goes beyond just that, but right now, what I've realized, many of them don't have financial education. So I've been focused more on that, teaching them the fundamentals of savings, of, different types of, like, for example, different types of money. Like for them, they had no idea. I'm dealing with people that have no IDs. They don't have bank accounts. They don't pay taxes. So the same reasons why I fell in love with Bitcoin are not the same reasons why they're like for Bitcoin. So, that's kind of been like my main focus this year, but like this coming year, I kind of want to shift it and like offer the other services. Like we have a student who actually is going to start his first business. So we're going to like try to help him not like develop a business plan, because business plans kind of suck. No offense. I feel like they don't go beyond a business plan, but kind of like teach him how to like have it running, have customers and everything.
Yeah. So you are teaching these people about Bitcoin, about like life skills and finance and that kind of thing. When you're talking to them about Bitcoin, what resonates with them? Have you found things that work, things that don't work? What are some of the challenges that you faced?
So at the beginning, I was like, oh, like I was telling you, like, yeah, like the government sucks. Like you don't have to pay taxes. They take all your money. They are inflating like your dollars. And they were like, okay, we don't care. Many of them, like I said, don't have bank accounts. They've been sort of like secluded, especially when you're on an island. You kind of realize how little the government cares. They only care when, for example, elections or election years, because they pay them to vote for a certain party in a very low key way. So that being said, I had to change gears and be like, okay, they're not getting Bitcoin from like the freedom and financial stuff, because they're already financially, like, not like financially free, but they're really like, they're the living, breathing sort of like freedom maximalists that we think of, because they don't have that many rules like within their ecosystem. But one of the things that I did notice was their savings. They don't save at all. Their saving mechanism is sort of like, how would you explain this? Tandas. They do tandas. Tandas is like where, let's say, there's me, there's you, and there's another person. And each month we would give $10 to that tanda, and one of us would take the $30. Because if I bring $10, you bring $10, and the other person brings $10, that's $30. So that would be $30 for one person. And then each month it would rotate. Then another month it would be for you. And then another month it would be for me. And so on. So that is how they end up saving. And one of the things that through the classes, I noticed that when I started teaching them about saving and then Bitcoin, and for coming to the classes, I pay them in Bitcoin. One of them ended up paying for all her studies. She ended up having cancer, and she managed to save enough money to pay for her studies, because saving in Bitcoin is way more productive than saving in fiat. Another, one of the students, or the taxi driver, Tomas, he ended up getting into a car accident. and he managed to save enough sats to literally pay for the accident. So it was like these little things that would kept popping up that kind of like started switching their chip. Like, oh, if I'm going to save, I'm not going to save in pesos. I'm not going to save in dollars. I'd rather save in Bitcoin. So it's been really interesting to see.
Yeah, the philosophical, freedom-oriented, sovereignty-oriented things that maybe resonate with you and me, and perhaps a lot of other people in the United States, sounds like don't really resonate with them. They're just saying, hey, how can I scrape enough together to get by? How can I put away a little bit of savings? Sounds like that's kind of a community effort as well. With this, what'd you call it? Tandas? Did I say that
Yeah,
correctly?
from the tandas.
The
Yeah, you
tandas?
said it perfectly. Yeah, that's the reality. Like, they live day to day. Like, and they spend more than they even make. So it's interesting to see how literally Bitcoin can transform their life. And one of the things that I realized with the Bitcoin circular economies is each one of them is completely different. Like, you'll see there's like more than 15 Bitcoin circular economies around the world, and each of them use Bitcoin in a way that fits them.
Yeah. So what are some of the differences that you've seen in other areas, and what are the other areas that you visited?
So I visited El Salvador, Bitcoin Beach, and Berlin. And talking to the people from Bitcoin Beach, one of the biggest things for them was back then, before like they became a Bitcoin circular economy, they would have to travel from Bitcoin Beach all the way to San Salvador, to the capital, to like pay for their light bill, pay for things physically. So for them, that was sort of like their kind of like their one of their barriers to entry, I would say. For the ones in like not El Salvador, in Cusco, the communities there are very secluded from banks. They would have to go, it would take them around 3 to 6 hours to travel to the nearest bank for them. So that has been like this huge, sort of like having Bitcoin has kind of like connected them to an full on outside world, because they've been really secluded. So each one has their kind of like needs.
Yeah, and you've been there kind of documenting the way that these circular economies are coming about and growing, and actually going through the process of orange pilling and helping people understand Bitcoin and adopt as well. I think I saw you went to Peru. Is that right? What was that experience like? It seems like your background is in storytelling, is in journalism. Does that help frame the way that you think about how you help people understand Bitcoin? Like, what's the connection there? What brought you from journalism into this Bitcoin advocacy and all that?
So what I realized was one of the things I studied journalism and I used to work on TV for like many years. And one of the things that has helped me was to better package the videos, not really talking to the people like in person. What has helped me more in person has been listening and adapting. Actually, like one of the things that COVID probably taught many of us, like to adapt. Those who adapt literally are the ones that will survive the longest, because when you go in with like, and not being so stubborn, because when you go in with like this sort of idea, being able to literally change your plan and your outlook on things, it's what's going to help you resonate with the people. So when I'm talking to the islanders and I'm trying to get them to like understand Bitcoin, not even really understand, but accept it, like it'll do more good than harm. It's been listening to their needs and trying to see like who you're going to be talking to. Like, for example, you'll notice when you go to Bitcoin meetups or to Bitcoin conferences, you have like the plebs, then you have the suits. You're not going to talk to the suits the same way that you talk to the plebs type of vibe. So that has been more like trial and error. But for the storytelling perspective, it's been sort of, my thing has been trying to since I speak both Spanish and English, I think it's like my duty as a Bitcoiner to bring in like my assets or what I'm good at to the community. And I feel like every Bitcoiner should do that. You know, like, what do you have to offer? And to raise awareness, to bring, you know, more people, whether it's teaching, whether it's coding, whether it's, you know, developing, whatever it is that you do to like help the Bitcoin community, because Bitcoin only works if we want it to work. And that has been more of like where I've kind of like, from what I've learned in my journalism career back in the day, to literally like package it and story tell people through the YouTube BTC Isla in English.
Yeah. So how does Get Based TV fit into all of this? This is a company or a media agency that you founded fairly recently or over the last couple of years?
Yep, we founded it last year. It is me, Adam O'Brien from Bitcoin Well, and Julian Figueroa from Kinetic Finance. And it all started because of the Peru doc. So Julian reached out to me since I'm from Peru originally, he's like, yo, you're from Peru. I'm doing a documentary about Motive. Would love it if you could come. When we went to Peru and we did the documentary, he was like, yo, we work really well together. We should, like, he always had the idea to start a media company, and he used to talk to Adam about it because they actually did a documentary in Guatemala about another Bitcoin circular economy. And Julian was like, yo, let's do, I'm starting a company. Would you be down? And our idea was to create the content that we wanted to create. But the issue with that was the sponsorship. Many content creators, like, obviously it costs money to create videos, and the documentary almost didn't happen because we couldn't find sponsorships. But we managed to crowdfund the whole thing through Geyser Fund. So when we all got together and we decided, like, yo, we're going to start Get Based, one of the things that we needed was a service. So our service is to create tutorials for different Bitcoin and technology companies. For example, we create these 30 to 60-second tutorials on how to use the platform or how to use the website. And thanks to that, we fund all of our videos and crazy ideas that we want to do. Like, this year, we're going to have 2 other shows coming up aside from BTC Isla. We're going to have the exit manual, and I think it's called Thank God for Bitcoin. No. Oh, Proof of God. It's going to be Proof of God. So now we've managed to sort of like kind of have this service that's business to business and fund our crazy ideas.
So what is the mission statement then of the media side of Get Based? Is it just purely about education and orange pilling and just creating those stories that you're so passionate about? Or is there something else? Like, how do you think about that?
Our mission statement actually is to sort of like free the sovereign individual through creative storytelling. So all the videos and the media production that we do, which is also like documentaries and stuff, we try to awaken the sovereign individual through that. That's what the mission statement is. Awaken the sovereign individual. I forgot it.
I love it. I love it. Some of the things that are going on in the world outside of Latin America are really helping to drive Bitcoin adoption, in very different ways than I think we had maybe anticipated that it would. Does any of that filter down into Latin America? I'm guessing most of these people maybe haven't ever heard of Strategy and Michael Saylor and all of that. Does that at all filter down into what you're doing on the ground down there?
Honestly, no. From like in BTC Isla, it doesn't affect at all. It's like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Michael Saylor. I love MicroStrategy. I feel like they are Orange Pill and Metaplanet and Simon Garovich. I feel like they're sort of orange pilling and introducing Bitcoin to a fully like untapped group of individuals. You know, people that have been in the stock market, you know, TradFi. They kind of like opened that gate. But it's completely different in the island and in Bitcoin circular economies. Like that stuff, like it goes way in over their head. Like
it's
to
just not
paint the
relevant.
picture, no, it's not relevant. It's sort of like, the people that, are part of BTC Isla and are some of my students, they don't even think about retirement. They won't retire. You know, that's not even a word in their vocabulary. They don't know. Like, they will, like, for example, I'll try to paint the picture for you. I was in one of our recent classes. I was standing there with them, and many of them don't keep learning. Their education system is sort of they have done 3 hours of school a day, because their school system here goes from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. You know, so their ability to critically think is completely different than those that have studied in Western education. So we're sitting there in, you know, a closed down restaurant, and I'm teaching them about, you know, Bitcoin, and they have to think about their future because they don't think about that. No one's ever asked them like, oh, what are you going to do when you're literally 60 years old and you really can't work anymore? And then to the side of us, there was an Italian restaurant, and it is filled with Canadians and Americans from their early 50s and late 50s. So I tell them, I'm like, guys, why do you think they are there drinking cocktails at 3 p.m. on a random Tuesday, enjoying the view while you guys just got off your work shift? And like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to go home, take care of your kids, feed your kids, wash your clothes, all these like things. And it's because nobody has ever taught them to think ahead and to like, for them to be like, oh, if I use my years where I'm young and I work hard and I'll be able to save money and I'll be able to take care of myself when I'm older. So sort of like investing or stocks or these like MicroStrategy stocks type of things, like for them is not even like relevant at all.
Is it really just an education issue, you think? Or it is just truly that there isn't enough excess capital or excess savings for these people to have the thought of, hey, maybe I can like stock some away for the future and actually build a savings portfolio or a nest egg that could be used to sustain my family, you know, as I get older?
It's sort of like honestly very trippy. It kind of reminds you of like the book 1984. I always think about it. And it's sort of like, okay, if you keep them from not knowing things, will they ever ask questions type of vibe? Because I think it goes both cultural and also like because of the education. So a lot, like I studied in the States, and yes, I like after a certain amount of time, I'm like, damn, like the system, they are trying to indoctrinate us in a way. But then when you come to areas where they don't have that background of education and that ability to critically think, it's completely different how they are, like their processing methods. Like it's like you're talking to two completely different people, you know? And then I say cultural as well, because many cultures, especially like you'll notice the ones in Peru, it's very sad to see. But if someone from their family, like let's say I only speak one language, I don't want my kid to speak another language. Like they don't want what's better for the next generation. It would be like, if I lived a crappy life, you're going to live a crappy life. That's the chip that they're raised. And you see it with people that are in like I'm talking about in the rural areas. Like they have their own farms. They like, for example, that they have kids and they're already working by the time that they're 5. Those are the people that if I'm not going to succeed in life, you're not going to succeed. And it's very rare to see the ones that do.
Do you think that Bitcoin has the ability to reach those people who have these cultural biases there? And are you seeing some inroads where people are kind of waking up to the possibility that Bitcoin can provide a savings avenue for them?
Yeah, because Bitcoin gives them freedom. That's one of the things that I've realized. And it's sort of like the mantra through all of this, like from whether Bitcoin circular economies in Peru or here in Mexico, having the ability to literally stack your own sats is a game changer. Like I was explaining to you, about one of the students that raised enough money or saved enough money to literally pay for her studies. Last time I spoke to her about them, like we were having a conversation, she was like, now I'm saving my sats for my grandkids. You know, it's granting them the power to sort of like literally break from their own matrix because their matrix is completely different. And what I was realizing, for example, the Bitcoin circular economy in Peru, their system is completely different because the women, when they work, they have to give their money to the male of the family, whether it's the father or their husband. And the father or their husband, they're not drug addicts, but they're alcoholics. There's a huge drinking problem. So they would spend the money, you know, like the actual physical cash for drinks, for alcohol. But when you have it to, like, for example, in Bitcoin, the dad or the husband doesn't know what Bitcoin is. They don't even know that they're getting paid through Bitcoin. So it grants them an escape without having like the physicalness of like having it registered in somewhere.
Wow, yeah, that's super interesting. I think we've heard some other stories about that, even in the Middle East, where women do not have the same types of rights as some of the men do. And I think Alex Gladstein has talked quite a bit about that and done some documentaries or some documentation of those types of realities. It sounds like it's a similar type of dynamic there, and that Bitcoin can offer a bit of a path or a solution for that problem, at least to address it to some degree.
No, 100%. It's once you see it, you start realizing that there's bigger problems out there. You know what I mean? And sometimes we get so kind of like on this tunnel vision, like these fights that I see on social media all the time that I'm like, try to, like, for example, this year where we had like the huge Trump election and we wanted a pro Bitcoin president. And it also goes into like, yes, it is cool to have a pro Bitcoin president in a way, but mass adoption won't happen from the top down. You need it to be like a bottom up approach type of vibe. And I think sometimes we just have to like step back and see like, okay, where do we want the bigger picture to be? And see how Bitcoin can actually help people and how we can get better and how we can reach hyper Bitcoinization, because it is changing people's lives. And many people complain a lot about Lightning. They're like, oh, Lightning is not real Bitcoin because you're using a custodian and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, if you're going to complain about it, okay, then give us other solutions. Well, okay, what's your other solution? You know what I mean? Like, pop it up, develop it, create it, and pass it along so those that are trying to like figure out and like help other people with it, they can experiment and see if it will be scalable. Because that's one of the things about these circular economies. They're like these mini experiments and like science experiments to see if like, okay, how can Bitcoin scale? Like, what would be the issues about it?
Yeah, you need a million different experiments going on across the world that are solving the bespoke problems that different people have. that come to them from challenges that they have for saving, challenges they have for payments. You're talking about in El Salvador, people have to travel hours to go to Western Union or somewhere to cash their paycheck, or they could just receive Bitcoin or send Bitcoin, over the border. We're talking about remittance payments and that kind of thing. It's like, people use the term, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I think for a lot of people, it's more like, hey, when do I recognize that I've got a problem that Bitcoin can actually help me to solve? And those problems are very different for different people, right? They're very different problems that the people in Peru, in Isla, in a lot of Latin America are dealing with than we in the US are dealing with. And we're using Bitcoin to solve a different problem for ourselves than they are for themselves, right?
100%. Like, one of the huge barriers is education. Like, many people don't even want to spend the time to learn. So it's like, how are we going to sort of like fill that gap? Because right now, like, you do need to know stuff about Bitcoin in order to like put it into self-custody. Because unfortunately, the way that reality is like, if you want to buy Bitcoin right now, like if, for example, your grandma is like, hey, I want to buy Bitcoin. You're like, all right, grandma, you got to download an exchange. Because the easiest way to buy Bitcoin right now is through KYC exchanges. Like, very few companies are sort of like, hey, we need to like stop this non-KYC nonsense that we've kind of been pushed to do and like to create. Because that's like the sad reality. Like, nowadays you want Bitcoin, either you can get it peer to peer, which who's going to want to sell you their like mined Bitcoin that is not KYC, And how do you teach someone to like put it into their power with like in their cold storage? How do you tell them like your 12 words that you have, they are so freaking important that you cannot lose them. And one of the things that I've realized is comfort has sort of kind of like butchered society in a way, because people don't want the responsibility of holding their own money, and they're giving it to like third parties to do it. And you see how now people are like, I have to take care of these 12 words. Where am I going to put them? Like, so it's been sort of like, okay, this hurdle that we need to go through, because also the fees, the transaction fees from putting Lightning to on-chain, like, it's a big gap, especially for people that live day to day. They would literally have to hold it on their Lightning, like on their Lightning wallets. That's where it's gonna be. So it's a lot of things that we have to like look into perspective and see like how, as like Bitcoiners, we're gonna like solve those things and like make it easier for people, but also, yeah, make it more accessible, I guess.
Things
Well, it is very accessible.
It is, and it's very accessible in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people in different parts of the world. And some of the regulated exchanges and that kind of thing, maybe that is the easiest way for a lot of people to get access to Bitcoin, to be able to buy that. But for some people who are, kind of not plugged into any type of like banking system or something like that, there has to be a better way. I think the tools have come a long way in the last 5 years even, and we'll continue to see a lot more development in that regard that will empower more people to accept Bitcoin and adopt it for savings, for payments, and all of those things that it solves. I want to shift gears a little bit, right? So we've been talking about your work in BTC Isla and educating and that kind of thing, but you're also doing something else at Isla Mujeres, which is BitFit Games, right? You have a very strong fitness focus. You've built a gym, or maybe multiple gyms down there. Tell us a story about how this came about. What is BitFit Games? I think the first the first event here is starting in October, right?
Yes. So, BitFit Games is going to happen October 3rd to the 5th. I'm joining forces with Bitcoin Sports Network. I always loved, working out. I've always done it. I've been into like CrossFit, cross country, you name it. I've tried literally every sport. And when I moved to the island, the gyms here kind of sucked. Not to like, but, and one of the things that I realized was there's this huge gap. Like, there's no way if I'm going to move to an island and there's not going to be like a good gym to work out. And I'm very like a firm believer, like if you don't like something, you change it. Like, stop complaining, change it. So it started as an idea. Like, we started like, have you seen the Tulum gym, the jungle gym in Tulum?
No.
No? I know, Trey. Google it. You have to see it. It's really funny. It's like this sort of like, kind of like, the Flintstones type of vibe, but that type of style of gym. So I was like, okay, we're going to try and do that. So we built like a wood gym, and then it was way too hot. We're like, no way, we can't. So we decided to build a full-on gym, and we're opening it to the public August 1st. And since I built it, Bitcoin Sports Network, Freda was like, yo, like, I love this. I'm a CrossFitter too. Why don't we start a Bitcoin Fits game? And the whole thing is, and the idea is that we're going to have families come to the island, because I don't know if you can relate, but normally there's one Bitcoiner in the family and the rest are, they don't really care. They don't see the hype. They're like, yeah, I like Bitcoin, but not to the extent that you like it. So we're like, how can we make the family members also enjoy Bitcoin? So we're doing this sort of style of like a competition. So every family is their own group and their own team. And we're going to do a scavenger hunt in the whole island. And we're going to have different fitness games and competitions to each compete. And at the end, the winner is going to donate their Bitcoin to one of the merchants on the island of their choosing. So it's sort of like you're giving back to the community type of vibe.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask, how does Bitcoin fit into the BitFit Games? What's the connection point there? So there's a Bitcoin prize, but that prize goes to somebody who's local there, a local business.
Yeah. No, and also like the games that we're going to participate, like there's going to be like intellectual games, physical games, and trivia games. And like, for example, like the trivia games and stuff, they will be Bitcoin oriented. So you'll be learning about Bitcoin the whole process.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so there is a bit of an educational component to the BitFit Games. It's not just about fitness with a Bitcoin prize at the end.
Exactly.
I love it. Is it tied into the work that you're doing at BTC Isla? Is there some overlap there, or is this a totally separate project?
Well, the thing is, like the BTC Isla students are going to be involved, and you're going to sort of like meet the merchants, meet the students, and kind of get to know that they're like genuine people too, So it's going to be like a full on merger. I feel like Bitcoin has like a funny way of like connecting everything together. So that's going to be the style of it.
Okay, gotcha. And then in terms of the gym, it's opening August 1st, you said. Are you accepting Bitcoin there in payment for services? Is it a free gym where just locals can come by and you're paying them in education? Or how do you envision the way that the gym is going to operate?
So the gym is going to be a Bitcoin gym too. So you can accept Bitcoin as well. In a way, I'm like building my own citadel, sort of. So you can literally pay with Bitcoin. So if you want to work out, like you could pay a day pass. We're going to have not Bitcoin classes. We're going to have actually like gym classes as well. Eventually, we're going to have like a Zen area where we're going to have cold plunge and sauna as well. But it's been growing slowly but surely.
That's awesome. Well, we've got a few minutes left. I want to hear a little bit about the future. Like, what do you think is your goal, how are you thinking about the future of Isla Mujeres and the work that you're doing there? Do you have any other documentaries planned? Are you traveling to some other places that are circular economies and documenting what's going on there? Like, what's in the next 6 to 12 months for Isabella?
So in the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully like you and your family can come down for the BitFit Games so you can see like the full on like layout.
I would love to do that.
Because what we want to do next is build like Bitcoin villas. So in the back of like the Bitcoin gym, there's this property that we're going to start building 6 villas that we want it for Bitcoiners. So it's sort of like, it's sort of like when you plant a seed and you just water it and it does its own thing. That's sort of how it's been. Like the minute that we started accepting Bitcoin, all these Bitcoiners started coming to the island, and then like Bitcoiners and hiding from the island have been coming out. So that's going to be our next goal, to sort of start the Mayaquita Village project, where we're going to have villas for Bitcoiners. And on the island, I want to have like the next graduating class graduates and start the other graduating class. There's been also, for example, actually, there's a flyer here. I don't know if you're familiar with the Montessori school, but they're starting a Montessori school here on the island. And they're asking for donations and help. And one of the organizers is a friend of mine. His restaurant actually accepts Bitcoin already. I want to have a meeting with them to see how we can incorporate Bitcoin education in the school system. The style of Montessori is very different, so I don't know how well they're going to react, but that's one of like been my biggest dream. Like, I want to get into the education system here to see if I could like make a difference. And I want BTC Isla to like have welcome more Bitcoiners. For Get Based, we're going to have the Meta Planet documentary launch very soon. It's going to be a 2-part series. So it's going to be a documentary that's focused in Japan, and then another part that is focused on Meta Planet. And other than that, travel around the world to the Bitcoin conferences. We got Hong Kong. There's going to be one in Nashville and one in Amsterdam, one in Mena. There's like too many to count, but
you have so many different projects and balls in the air. I don't know how you keep up with all that. How can people support the work that you're doing? How can they get in touch with you? Help people understand how they can get involved in the work that you're doing.
To get involved, honestly, if they could subscribe to the YouTube channel, BTC Isla, it would be amazing. And if they want to help the BTC Isla project, there's a Geyser Fund, which we're filing for a nonprofit. So hopefully in around 3 months, people will be able to donate and be tax exempt. So that's like another thing that we're trying to do. But yeah, they could follow through the Geyser Fund, and then also the Get Based social handles and my personal handles. So the Get Based is getbased.tv, and then mine is Isabella SG3.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for the time. You've got so many exciting things going on. Everybody go check out what Isabella and her team is working on. And with that, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.